Hi, this is the DH Newsroom and I'm Rashmi Vasudeva. I head the features team at Deccan Herald, and today I'm going to talk to my colleagues about a development that's become a major talking point for me and other apartment owners like me in Bengaluru. There's a lot of ambiguity surrounding it and we are looking for clarity. Naveen and Sneha, do you live in an apartment?
No, I don't.
For me, it's yes and no. What about you?
I do live in an apartment, and that's actually why I've agreed to anchor this episode today. Often the most stressful part of living in an apartment is dealing with the apartment associations, and I notice many of my neighbors and sometimes even me, we are confused about whom to approach for resolutions, for disputes, about common areas, maintenance charges, etc. Now there's a new draft bill by the Karnataka government to codify everything for the first time ever. And I have many questions about it, like I'm sure many of those listening will too. For those of you who don't know, Naveen Menezes and Sneha Ramesh extensively cover Bengaluru city for Deccan Herald, and they have been tracking all the developments with the new bill and the issues faced by apartment owners. So let's get started. Naveen, let me play the citizen here. Does the draft bill make life easy for apartment owners?
I believe it is yes, simply because Karnataka will have an act for apartments after a gap of 50 years. So there has been a lot of improvements made, especially with respect to the rights of apartment owners. There is clarity on the roles and responsibility of promoters as well as what the associations must do. On the question of apartment owners, this act consolidates what are the rights, for example ownership and transfer of apartments from one hand to the other, as well as the inheritance part of it.
Not many people know that there was a law governing this very same thing from 1972. So why do we need a new law? What's broken with that?
So for the we did have multiple laws, but they were framed long ago. What this act does is, it is being done on the request of apartment federations, especially Bangalore Apartment Federation worked along with the government. In the earlier laws, there were multiple gaps with respect to maintenance charges, dispute resolution, accountability from the part of apartment owners as well as association. So now there is a lot of clarity with respect to all these elements.
Let me ask you, Sneha, there are apartments with 5,000 flats, 700 flats, there are apartments with 10 flats. So who does this act actually cover?
So basically, like you said, there are big apartment complexes, there are smaller ones. So what the act specifically says is this applies for apartments which have more than 8 houses or 8 flats. So this is done, I mean, in other states there have been places where the other states where they've said we can have it just 4 also, but Karnataka, I think after a lot of deliberation they said let's keep it at 8 because they don't want to trouble these smaller ones again. So this basically applies to any apartment complex with more than 8 houses. And one thing that this act also specifically does is, like Naveen said, it points out to what the promoters should do, what the association should do, what the owners should be doing. So who it applies to is the collective, all the stakeholders in the group basically.
And why the act matters most is because, see, Bangalore has got 25,000 to 30,000 apartments, where the number of flats is as high as 25 lakh. And RERA records show that 60,000 to 75,000 flats were registered in just 1 year. So the number of people living in apartment is a huge.
But then if it does not cover people living in apartments which are fewer than 8 houses, then won't they miss out on the advantages of the act if it comes into force?
No, so I mean, what I've gathered from the ground when speaking to people is these run on a very small scale. So if you look at the maintenance things and all of it, it runs on a small scale, and most of them, what have happened, I mean, most of the independent houses in many areas have been converted into such flats over the years. So there have been cases where multiple flats are owned by one of the property owners and all of it. So it doesn't make sense to involve them, to make them, to ask them to register themselves, maintain accounts and all of it, if it's just the families living together in separate flats or anything like that. So there's some burden they want to take off from them also, but then again have some act that also makes sure if there are other people living, there is kind of a better management of all of it.
I'll just put this question to both of you. Is the bill more pro-homeowner or pro-builder?
I will take that question. See, I believe it is pro-home buyer and at the same time not anti-promoter.
So basically we already have the RERA Act where the promoters are supposed to abide by many things. I think this act we can't say pro or anti. It just puts in place who should be doing what, rather than, just kind of setting responsibilities for each of them, which so far was happening on a kind of a good faith basis, but there were disputes. So as the old act was 1972, where I think the boom of apartments only started after 70s, 80s. So only when you have it on a large scale, what are the problems that could arise. So that's where the new law came in, and it kind of set in the responsibility.
And it also benefits the home buyer because, see, when the promoter completes 50% of the booking, he is supposed to form the association. So far what was happening is that the builder was taking his own time to register the association. The buyers wouldn't know each other, so even if there is a default, delay in project, so the fight, there was no united fight. So now the advantage for a home buyer is he will know the other home buyers, because the promoter is expected to register the association once the 50% of booking is done.
That actually brings me to a question that I thought of yesterday. If the bill is talking about apartment owners sharing a land, but I thought I always shared the land, and I'm confused. What's the new thing here?
So it is not. What happens is there are different players involved, right? In some big builders, they generally transfer all the share to the property owners. In some cases, what the problem was, the share in common areas were only transferred to the association and not to the owners. What the act says is that the UDS must be shared to all the owners based on the super built up area. So that clarity is there in this bill, which was not there in the past. And the other problem was the builders used to not transfer the land records, Khata, to the owners. So here that clarity is also there.
I'll ask you about maintenance, one of the biggest areas of dispute in residents associations and between owners and residents associations. Will the bill change how maintenance charges are calculated?
So far, it was mostly the associations setting the maintenance charges and all of it. That will continue, but what happens is the bill clearly says, based on the built up area of the apartments, the charges have to be calculated. And one big change for probably the apartment dwellers is now the association will have to maintain 3 accounts. So one is for the maintenance charges, that will be for all the basic facilities, water, cleaning and whatever is considered, and second one will be a user fee which the association will be empowered to levy based on the use of other facilities. So many apartments have the clubhouses, there are swimming pools, there are other sports facilities and all of it. So the associations can also levy a user fee. And the third one is capital expenditure. So what used to happen earlier was, if there is a big repair or a pipeline change, if for big apartments it runs into lakhs, and even if one apartment owner has to pay 5,000 to 10,000 for that repair, that is a huge burden for a family. So collecting that was difficult. Many would say, I need time to pay and all of it. So now what happens is, in the maintenance charge, the association can include a small capital expenditure charge which will go into the capital expenditure account, and will be kept to be used whenever there is such a situation, so that they don't have to ask the owners to pay off immediately or anything, so that they have a fund ready to do. So that might mean that your maintenance charges might go up or come down. It depends on the apartment specific
And it
cases.
might also reduce a lot of fights, people not using swimming pool
Correct.
and clubhouse.
Yeah, I think
Will-
that's one
Yeah,
problem
option
which
of, yeah.
has resulted
But
in
what
lot of
happens when
fights.
somebody just pays, just refuses to pay? I won't pay. Like for instance, in my own apartment, there are people whose maintenance charges are running into lakhs because they've not paid up their dues.
Correct.
What happens? Does the new draft bill say
Yes,
anything around
yes,
this?
there is a separate, where the new act talks about it. One is if they don't pay, the association has a right to levy interest on top of the dues. If they still don't pay, they can, the association can go to the urban development department, which will be the competent authority, where the dispute will be resolved. The authority has an option to pass an order. If there the buyer, the owner or the association have dispute, again there is one more appellate authority which is on within the urban development department, where there will be, both sides will be heard. So that option of resolving this issue is there, and
It was
also
not there earlier?
it was not there earlier. There was no clarity. And secondly, whenever the apartment owner wants to sell his flat, he is required to take from the association in writing that he does not have outstanding dues.
Okay,
this
so the person who is buying the flat will not inherit some dues that
some
the
dues,
previous
yes,
owner
yes,
has.
yes.
So I'll come to the rights of apartment owners, Neha. You know how the disputes always start about somebody wanting to renovate their house, and the rest of the association not wanting that to happen. There is always some problem around it. So how much freedom does an apartment owner has now? Can I, for instance, if I own an apartment and I want to renovate it, can I renovate it however I like?
So inside, if you're renovating your apartment, I think you have pretty much of a freedom to do that, unless you are not causing any damage to the structure overall. See, there are pillars and all of it in a big apartment complex. So the act specifically says that it should not affect the strength of the building, or it should not change the look, because the apartments, all of them have the same look. So outside you shouldn't change the look of the apartments, and there are common walls and all of it which shouldn't be damaged, or there shouldn't be any change to it, or there shouldn't be any construction near the lifts or service staircases and all of
Near
it.
the balconies.
Balconies. The overall look is supposed to remain as is. But I think inside the apartment owners have pretty much freedom to do anything they want to do with the inside part of it, unless it doesn't cause any damage.
But this was generally the unsaid rule around apartments
Correct.
earlier as well. So
Earlier
now
as well.
does the bill give any special powers to the apartment associations? Can they like barge in and prevent something from happening?
Right. So what happens is, if they feel that there is that the renovation is affecting the structure, or if there is a problem, they can serve a notice to the owner saying this is how, and then they can take an expert opinion. If that's true, then the owner will have to stop that or go back to what it was and all of it. And in worst case, if the owner doesn't respond, doesn't do anything, they have the powers to, like you said, barge in also if the owner doesn't respond.
But what happens is the bill will not give you a lot of clarity. There will be something that is called rules that will come subsequently, where these penal provisions, those points will be mentioned. So the bill will not give you that kind of clarity.
Now, if I come to the future of the property, in Bangalore, there are now already several apartment complexes which are more than 25 years old, more than 30 years old, and if some of the owners want to redevelop it, and then there is a dispute with some other owners who do not want to do any such thing. Personally, my parents live in an apartment which is around 30 years old, and some of them in the apartment want to redevelop, but there is strict opposition from others. So how does this work now? Does the draft bill address any one of these questions?
Actually, this was one of the main reasons that many of them were looking forward to this new bill, because there was no clarity in the old one and all of it. And Like I said, there was an apartment boom in 70s, 80s, even in Bangalore, and many of those have now become old, 30, 40 years, like you said, and many of them have become weak, not very livable, are very dangerous also. So one thing that the bill now says is that you can allow redevelopment if 75% of the owners agree for it. So this will solve a lot of cases, because if there are others who don't agree for it, there is a monetary settlement that can be made. So if they don't want to give away for redevelopment, move out and allow for redevelopment, they can opt for monetary settlement, which is supposed to be 2 times of the market value, and again, that's where the competent authority also comes in. They'll also help them settle that out and go for redevelopment. So in Bangalore itself, there have been apartments which are 30, 40 years old, which were waiting. I think a few of them also approached the High Court saying this place is getting dangerous to live in, but we're not able to do anything. So given that the land rules have also changed over years, many developers are also actually keen on redeveloping them, and with no cost almost. So if you're a apartment owner living there, you don't actually have to shell out money also, because they have a permission to build an additional floor or something which the redeveloper can sell and make money. So you'll have to just move out. So that is one thing that I think has helped a lot of apartment owners in Bangalore specifically. I think
And the draft also mentions if the apartment has completed 30 years, a structural safety audit is a must. So that provision is also included in.
And that brings me to the cases. So if there is a dispute now in such a case, or in any other case, whether it's renovation or redevelopment, if there is a dispute between the builder, the apartment owner and the residents, so where do they go now? Is there any change, and is it will it be different from going to a court?
Yeah. As I said before, see, for anything now to do with apartments, there will be an exclusive wing in the urban development department to handle anything related, whether it is registration of association, to dispute resolution, to approving of bylaws. So here there will be one will be one officer who will handle the disputes first, and if the promoter apartment owners are not happy, they can again go to the appellate authority. Appellate authority has powers on the lines of civil court. So in case of both these parties don't have are not happy with it, they can only go to the High Court. They cannot go to the civil court.
Does the draft bill give more powers to the association than they already have?
I wouldn't say more powers, but it defines a structure. So basically, like you said, we didn't know what they were authorized to do, what they were not authorized to do. There have been cases where apartment associations have acted like they are the landlords and all of it. There have been a lot of disputes like that, and there have been other cases where associations, where owners have actually said, you don't have the right, so I'm not going to pay or anything like that. So all of those disputes will be cleared now. There will be a structure which will say apartment association is authorized to do this. So they can collect maintenance fee, they can do this, they can ask you, they can come into your house if there is a immediate or emergency maintenance that has to be done and all of it. So I wouldn't say more empowered, but it lays down their duties, responsibilities, and also what they can do and what they cannot do also.
Their role is very limited to management, maintenance and administration. They will not get UDS share. Earlier that is what happened. And secondly, the association can elect executive committee only for a period of 2 years. And the member of executive committee can get re-elected once. He cannot be nominated and again. So that is one good thing.
So finally, this is still a draft bill. So according to you and your research, what do you think it's missing, or is it missing anything, or is there anything that needs to be added that could be suggested?
No, more than missing or to be added, I think how it happens on ground, because like we said, we did have a 1972 act, but then what the apartment owners found difficult was the competent authority which was done, the register of cooperative societies was not very welcoming. There was no process in place and all of it. So the success or the it will be helpful only on ground if the competent authority is welcoming enough, for because the apartment any apartment association has to register with them. They have to send out their bylaws what they frame, and they have to ensure that the bylaws are in accordance with the act, and they have to resolve disputes. So that is a very crucial part of the act. So if on ground the competent authority is strong enough and proactive, and all of what is laid out in the act is actually practiced on ground, I think that will be a big win for the apartment owners.
And last week government met a lot of apartment owners, and everybody wanted to talk about it, when the draft was out, which means, there were a lot of grievances with the draft as well. So the government has allowed the window to, give feedback for another 2 weeks. So, and one of the major issue some of them pointed out is that the draft does not talk about the promoter transferring Khata to the property owners. So that issue is still prevalent, is what some of them raised, and few felt that it is not aligned with the RERA Act. So if it is not aligned with the RERA Act, it is likely to get struck down. So all this effort will go waste. So now that it is only the Urban Development Department which has drafted. So before it becomes an act, it has to pass through different departments, and by then the final output might be totally different. Though we don't know, and the government is yet to take opinion of the real estate builders, that is CREDAI. So we may see a lot of changes in what might finally come out.
Thank you, Naveen, and thank you, Sneha. That was very illuminating. I hope we have answered some of your questions, but if there's anything else you would like us to address, let us know in the comments below. Naveen and Sneha will be tracking the story exhaustively, as will my other colleagues. For the latest on this story, as well as other news, log on to deccanherald.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to know when we release our videos. Thanks for watching.